Okay, again, good morning, everybody, and to those who might be watching online. Thank y'all for being here for our voter education and empowerment gathering, where our theme today is voter accessibility and voter accountability. I want to ask those of you who can, if y'all would come up a little bit closer, because the primary conversation is going to be right here on the stage, and there's going to be an opportunity for you to engage in the conversation as well. And so we hope that you have close enough proximity to the people that they can hear you even without a microphone. I am Dr. Earl Fisher. I am the pastor of the place where you are, which is the Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church, affectionately referred to as the blackest church in Memphis and Shelby County. That's because nobody's going to show up for black folks or stand up for black folks or speak up for black folks more than Abyssinian. So welcome to this wonderful place. On behalf of the entire congregational network of friends and kin, we always appreciate when our facility and our ministry can be used as a platform for a robust conversation about things that matter to people in our community. I'm also the founder of UPTheVote901, which is a nonpartisan voter empowerment and collaborative. I was thinking about this morning. We are about 8 years old, which means we've been through, or are going through now, the back portion of 2 full election cycles. We were formally launched on April 4th, 2018 at the National Civil Rights Museum main stage in commemoration of the 50-year anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. And it was there where we first chanted, or asked the crowd to chant, somebody say up the vote, and everybody started saying up the vote. So in the last 8 years now, we've done countless numbers of these type of gatherings and conversations, but we also have some signature events that set up our rhythm of voter education, voter engagement, voter empowerment, and it helps us to execute our mission and vision, which is to information and representation for more people and increase voter turnout in Memphis and Shelby County in every election. Our most signature event has been the Memphis People's Convention, which we resurrected in honor of the historical People's Convention in 1991 that helped to elect the first African-American mayor, Dr. Willie Harrington. It was not another Memphis People's Convention until we revised it and resurrected it in 2019. Part of the reason we felt it was necessary to do that is because we understand not only the diminished voting capacity and power based upon low turnout elections, but we also recognize that in a municipal election, when there is no primary, it is possible for our black vote to be split and our power to be diminished so bad that somebody can get in with a small number of people that do not represent the vast majority of our community and our constituency. We also do voter empowerment sessions like these about once a quarter, but even more during a election cycle like the one that we're in right now. Another one of our signature events is the People's Primary, because our county races and our statewide races and our federal races do have primaries. We understand in a place like Shelby County, whoever wins the primary is more than likely going to win the general if you are a party that most of the people in the county vote for, which is the Democratic Party. And so, as we know, we are in the midst of one of those election cycles right now. The county election is coming up. The county primary is coming up. Early voting starts April 15th, and the election is May the 5th. So what we do in our people's primary is try to have a primary before the primary. We want to make sure that our community knows the people who best represent their interest. And so we are planning to have the people's primary. This is my first time announcing this publicly this cycle. We are planning to have our people's primary on April the 18th. That is the first Saturday in the early voting cycle. And somebody's like, why do y'all do that during early voting? It's because during early voting, you can vote at any open precinct. On election day, you have to vote at the precinct that is assigned to you. And I don't want to take up too much time, but if you want to know the impact of that, look no further than what just happened in Texas as many people, especially in places like Dallas and Houston, struggled to find their polling precinct on the day of the election where they had to go directly to that location. So if we execute our people's primary accurately, people get more information, direct access to the people who want their vote, and after they hear from them, they get to go directly to the nearest polling station and cast their ballot. So we do those things, and on the years where there is no election, we do a Memphis People's Summit, which is our accountability measure, where we have elected officials who are willing to come before our constituents and express to them what they have done while they have been in office, why they have done it, and if we don't feel like they have been meeting the mark, then we reserve the right to start maneuvering in ways that would remove them from office during the next election. So we're always glad when people connect with Up the Vote 901. There are several ways to do it. You could always find us on social media, Up the Vote 901 on Facebook, at Up the Vote 901 on Instagram. You can email us, upthevote901@gmail.com. And every time we come to spaces like this, you will probably end up getting an email blast from us. If you are watching online and you want to connect with us, just say something in the comment section and somebody will follow up with you. Today is a wonderful time to have a conversation that has been sparked by some of our previous gatherings, and there are some people who are well capable of having this conversation. And again, for those who just stepped in, I might have to step out for a second for some pastoral responsibilities, but I want to bring up my right-hand man. Over the last 8 years, he's worked closely with us and helped to shape the landscape of what Up the Vote 901 continues to become. Give it up for the Chief Operations Officer, C.J. Waller Crawford.
Good morning, everybody. It might be prophetic. Other than Earl and I, all 11 of you are here. And that 11 reminded me the fact that 11% of folks turned out in the 22 Shelby County election, right? The 2022 Shelby County election. I'm going to ask my brother Earl to hit that music because he loves it and I don't. All right. And so this conversation was born out of a voter registration training we had. It was about 26 folks who came through and learned how to register to vote. But we had a young man who asked the question. He said, is there anything published about holding elected officials accountable? And I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure that something exists. But it did mean that I thought, you know, Up the Vote has had a bunch of educational symposiums. We've never had one about that specific topic. And so I knew that there were at least 2 people who could have come and spoke well to that. And so one of them is already here. Let's welcome to the stage Dr. Andre Johnson. And whenever she gets here, we're going to ask for the Honorable and Venerable Tami Sawyer to just walk up on stage. But we're going to go ahead and get the conversation started. All right. So let's start with some basic stuff. No. That's basic. All right. Are you on?
Go ahead. Oh, there you go.
All right. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
All right. Very good.
One.
Very good. All right. So we're kind of addressing 2 things. The young man asked about he's talking about holding elected officials accountable. But we also want to talk some about accessibility. In your view, what things are blocking access to vote right now? And I mean, you can get as broad as you want to. We know some things are legislative, some things are cultural norms, some things are just looming misinformation. But from your read, what is hindering people's access to the polls?
Hindering people's access to the polls. There is an ongoing, okay, thank you. There is an ongoing, well, first of all, good morning, everyone. So glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Always love to come to Abyssinian Baptist Church because I do know of your works, you know, and your works speak loudly for you in this city and in this county. And indeed this state, and we are so grateful and thankful that Abyssinian is here in Memphis, Tennessee. We always talk about issues and problems and concerns. I just want to remind everybody again, just think if you think we got some problems now, what would it look like if Abyssinian wasn't here? What would it look like if G-Life wasn't there? What would it look like if people were not out here trying and doing the work that you think everybody agrees that needs to be done? So I just always like to come first and foremost and just to say thank you. I am, because everybody's not doing this. Everybody is not holding these type of informational sessions. Everybody's not doing it. Everybody got another agenda, but we are talking about something real serious and issue and issue related and germane to the community at large, and I'm so grateful and thank you for the invitation. Now to your question. What is it? Well, you know, there is an active voter suppression campaign going on. I was just in preparation for coming here today, and in my own scholarship and in my own work that I'm doing on voting, and I was just reminded again, for instance, in North Carolina. I know this is Tennessee, but North Carolina is the flagship of this, where legislators actually asked for voter rolls, actually said, okay, where do most of the black folk vote? When do they vote? How do they vote? And then engineered laws to suppress that vote. Mm-hmm. And even the courts was like, oh my God, this is a smoking, you actually said this in your email. You actually said this in your meeting, and we have it here. This is like racial discrimination. And so, but the problem was that an election, while that was going through the courts, an election happened. Mm-hmm. And so they got more power. And then they started doing other things. And so we know that this is why voter ID and all of those things are not really what they say on the surface. It's really a opportunity to try to reduce voting populations in certain areas. And I bring all of that up to say that, yes, we do know that that is happening. And I and you and a whole lot of people here are constantly fighting against that, fighting against the belief that everybody is being above board by saying we want to make sure that everybody, you know, is voting and everybody is, you know, their name is correct and all of this.
So it's not a mistake.
Right, exactly.
So I think the judge who wrote the opinion said that it was like surgical precision. That's this is nothing that somebody could have done arbitrarily or accidentally.
Right.
They did it with malicious intent. And so I guess the question might be, who did this? Which lawmakers did this? Was it all of them? Was it some of them?
No, all the lawmakers that did it. And I don't talk about, again, I don't really just talk about Republicans or Democrats. The conservative lawmakers. Okay. Conservatism. That's the issue. Mm-hmm. You're going to have Democratic conservatives, you're going to have Republican. Conservatism. I wish we would adopt that language. That's the language that the 19th century foreparents adopted when they were talking in Reconstruction time. Conservative legislators. Mm-hmm. And these conservatives are always trying to hold back, push back, try to stamp down voting opportunities. But what I was about to say is, if we know that, mm-hmm. Here's where the power, I think, because I'm a rhetorician. I believe in rhetorical agency. Agency still matters. Mm-hmm. So if I know that, I might get a little bit indignant. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, you did what? You tried to take my vote? You tried to suppress?
I'm pissed off.
But yeah, I'm trying to, wait a minute now. Okay, I'm going to show you. And that's what we kind of need now. Because if they're going to do one thing, we just can't say they're going to do it anyway and leave it alone. We need to get a little bit indignant, pissed off. We need to get a little bit more upset that this is happening.
So this is a part of what I know that gets at this young man's question. A lot of people aren't voting, and they are frustrated with both parties, all politicians, the apparatus. They wonder if it works at all. And so while I'm going to maintain my nonpartisan status, I'm just going to say it's enough blame to go around. So if it's some that is specific to the Republicans, I want to give it to the Republicans, because I'm not going to shy from giving what we need to give to the Democrats, Right. So I'm going to ask again, was there a party that did this? Because we can talk about what the other party did too. Because the question is, even when we've had at a federal level a supermajority, right? How do things still look like this? That must mean that either one group is in cahoots, or maybe they don't fight as hard, or maybe they ain't smart. One I've heard is maybe their messaging is poor, but something is going on, because how do people have a supermajority and then we end up here? So what does that look like? What do we need to think about for those who are conservative or in a Republican Party, and how do we need to push them? And how do we need to push people who are in the Democratic Party, and I guess you're going to use the language liberal.
Right. Or progressive.
Yeah. Well, and then we should talk about the difference between them. I don't know if that's
Here's the core of what I have been working on when you just hit that. I am of the belief that, and right now I think I'm in the minority with this, what I'm about to say. So I'm gonna say it anyway though, because I'm building up research to try to prove it. It's not the messaging. Every policy polls, that progressive policy polls well. Everyone, just name one. In Tennessee, right here, in this reddest of red states, when you go down the line with the policy, it polls well, if we're going to believe the polls now. It just does not look like that when it comes to election time. And what typically happens is that the candidates that would throw their hat into the ring and say, I am with you on all of these policies and I'm going to bat for you, realize somewhere in the campaign that if I push too hard on this, even though they say they want it, they won't vote for me. That's accountability. That's accountability right there. So I want to get the messaging game, the messaging problem away. I don't think it's a messaging. Progressives are winning the messaging. They're winning the messaging. What you're not winning is courageous folk with the moral integrity to stand up flat-foot and say, this is what I believe, this is where I stand, and if I lose on this, and not trying to figure out, what the polling may say or may not say. I'm standing on this. And when I stand on this, we get a couple of examples every now and then where individuals do that. When you stand on this, people will eventually, hopefully, prayerfully, or whatever, will see that. And then, of course, coming back to your original question of why we're here again, holding people accountable, then maybe the politicians will understand that, hey, you do vote. Mm-hmm. And maybe I have to hold myself accountable to not myself, but also to the people who say they're going to vote for me, because in 2 years or 4 years, I might not be here.
I got you. I want to talk a little bit about another hindrance to access, which we always talk about information with UPTheVote901. It's been said that the kids and nobody knows what civics is. I grew up kind of watching a late night show with Leno walking around asking people questions, and sometimes they would be as simple as like, how many branches of government are they? And there are studies that say increasingly people cannot answer that question, and they can't name them, and they don't know what they do. And so some of it is information, like people just don't have it, and I've looked into that some. But the other thing is misinformation. So we know that during, let's say, the Trump and Hillary election, there was like, and so that we're still federal here. I do want to talk some about Tennessee and Shelby County. All right. But at a federal level, we know that there were misinformation campaigns. Like people were literally making fake social media profiles, and they were aimed at like folks in the African American community.
Yep.
These profiles would say stuff that seemed very black. They talked about ancestors and Orisha and hip hop, and then they would just slide in and say something like, we don't belong here. This isn't for us. And I'd like for you to, if you can, speak to a little bit about who might be putting out some of those ads, and even if they didn't put them out, like who benefits most from that?
Well, we do know from the 2016 election, Russian bots and other foreign countries were doing that to support the Trump campaign. We do know that that has been proven, and I don't doubt that that is still going on, depending on who wants a certain person to win. And I know what pushes buttons. And again, when I talk about this, I also remind everybody, you don't need a whole lot of people. Only a few votes here or there can shift an entire election, can actually give insurrectionists power in the House and the Senate. I mean, I just need to pause right there for a moment, because I'm not going to never forget this. We saw an insurrection. And in the next election, we said, we want those guys in charge. That's what we said. We want those. We saw you do that. My God, we put you back in charge. Not just winning an election or two, in charge. I call the votes. I call what goes on the floor. I appoint folk. No, that's us. That's us. I'm sorry. That was on us. So, but back to your question. I'm sorry. Nope. I'm us as a whole, not individually. I understand where you come from, but I'm just saying. I'm trying to be. You know, I'm trying to be open and
Well, I'm gonna push him a little more.
No,
I was gonna let him.
I
I was gonna let him do all that. He thinks he knows what I'm gonna say.
But back to your question about bot. But this is why, again, we need to have education in misinformation, disinformation, and Onyx, a group that I follow a lot, does a good job in highlighting this misinformation and disinformation. Right. And then churches and other groups and agencies and institutions concerned about voting need to explain how this is happening. And this is a communication issue as well. We have scholars in our field that actually study this. And so I draw information from them as well too, to try to articulate what it is that we can do as it relates to getting the disinformation out. Because I don't think we're ever gonna stop it, but what we can say is we can look at something and say, no, we're not falling for that.
I want to talk about this. In this instance, I'm thinking about young folks and their particular disinformation. So I run into a lot of young African-American voters who are saying, I vote for this party, and they mean the Republican Party because they're saying, hey, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? And they want to know how you hoodwinked, and they use some other strong language. Folks would then vote for Democrats at all, and y'all are tricked. Now, their party preference is theirs, but there's clearly a bit of an ahistorical argument. Sure. So can you tell us a little bit about that for somebody who was like the age of that young man who actually might be watching our live stream? Like, how did that happen? Why do black folks at this point tend to vote Democratic?
Right. And again, going back to the earlier conversation about, this is why I don't use Republicans and Democrats. I use conservatives and progressives. Okay. Lincoln was the progressive. In the context, Democrats were the conservatives. They wanted to conserve slavery. They wanted to conserve the status quo. So did Lincoln to a certain degree, but at least he was pushable. He was pushable by a whole lot of black folk, Frederick Douglass Turner and a whole bunch of other folk. But as time goes on, this gives me an opportunity to say something else that I've been wanting to say publicly. I always say publicly too. The most issue-oriented, contextual voters in American history has been black folk. Black folk have always looked at the issues, always said, oh, okay, you're going to be doing that? We can't be with you anymore. We got to go over here.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happens. When time goes on, when the Republican Party becomes more conservative, when the Supreme Court, this is why I am a big believer. If you really want to know what's going on today, you need to know some 19th century Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction history. When the Supreme Court, a Republican-appointed Supreme Court, start denying the rights of African Americans, issuing the Plessy decision, strike down the civil rights decision, and when the Republicans start to move away, then FDR had an opportunity with the New Deal that brought over some black folk who could still vote in certain places in this country. And then, of course, the Civil Rights Bill, what was pushed through a Democratic Congress with Republican support. Then black folks said, oh, okay, we're going to be with this party right here. But again, the party labels doesn't matter. It's conservative policies versus progressive policies. We do not get where we are in this country without progressive policies. Every move in American history has been anchored by progressive policies and not conservative. Conservatism is the problem. It always tries to keep the status quo or push us back. And you can easily tell who are the conservatives and who are the progressives.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that black folks had sense enough to shift when they needed to shift based on some issue-driven policy.
Based on policy.
I got you. Okay, so you talked about the fact that somebody was able to lead an insurrection. I'm going to call his name Donald Trump. He was the leader of a MAGA movement. We can call it conservative. I call it evil. And so it doesn't seem like voters held him accountable.
No.
And so the question would be, what does it even mean to hold a politician accountable? Does it mean to ask him questions, or like what does that look like?
Isn't it? It must feel, I don't know how it feels, but it must feel wonderful that I can absolutely do nothing. Do nothing for you. I can absolutely do whatever I want, and you still vote for me. My God, I don't know how that feels. I mean, I don't have to have a policy. A policy. Tariffs, that's not a policy. That's the beginning of one, but you didn't even know how you was going to do the tariffs. You just said tariffs. I don't have to run, but you know, I expect everybody else to have a whole list of things, how they want to do it, when they're going to do it. I can do that and still get. So yes, the voters did not hold Trump or the Republican Party to account in anything.
Okay.
If we bring this back down here locally,
Okay.
we can say that in this governor's race that we're about to have, there's going to be one candidate that will not have one meeting with the people.
Okay.
There's going to be a candidate that does not respond to any of the things that you say that is important to you. Does not even have to show up for anything and probably going to win.
I see.
You tell me who's that on. So holding people accountable is the only thing in a democracy, and we still calling this a democracy, so in a democracy is the revolution that happens at every election time. The nonviolent revolution, every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years, or every 8 years, whenever it is, the people can say, we saw you.
Okay.
We don't want you anymore. We're going to get somebody else. And that can happen every cycle.
Okay. So for folks who are curious, they're like, man, it's a lot of damage that can be done in 4 years. Do we really have no other tactics than to wait until a whole other election? Is that going to be beneficial? Is that the whole toolkit of our tactics? Do we have anything else?
The whole toolkit right now, because the short answer is no. There is not the whole toolkit. There are recalls in certain states, depending. There's, of course, people can of course protest and move certain individuals, especially if you're a vote or two away from what it is that you. So who are the most vulnerable people and all of that? But in the Congress, the ultimate trump card is impeachment. But you have people that would not call for impeachment. Or as we saw in the last time impeachment was happening, not once, but twice, that you do not have the willingness to even convict after you get impeached, after the facts are laid bare.
Yeah.
So we do, yes. So the short answer is yes, there are some elements, but that's why you need people or good folk in all of the positions to do their jobs when it's time to do their jobs. It is not just one person, it is the entire governmental philosophy.
I'm about to segue to, we'll get to questions and answers shortly. I'm about to segue very hard towards our local elections. Right. Y'all know that we have county commissioners up, county mayor, county clerk, a whole bunch of votes looming. And I really want to talk about this because when we talk about holding folks accountable, while we did have a president who kind of has gotten away with murder, we have local politicians who keep getting caught up in some type of legal ramification. And I want to know, like, what's happening? What's different? Why do we care about those things? Let's say tax evasion, but we don't care about an insurrection at the Capitol. When it gets closer to home, whether it's like state senator, House rep, somebody on the city council, why all of a sudden do we really care about justice or what's legal? What could that be about?
Maybe some personalities, maybe some disagreements with the individuals, or something like that. However, since you brought up the local politicians and all, it would be nice that here in the city of Memphis that we have politicians who you can honestly say, even if you disagree with them, that, man, you really care about the city of Memphis. You really care about the majority of the population in the city of Memphis. We can work to negotiate some disagreements around some policies and stuff, but I think that's what people want to see. I know that's what I would like to see. I would love to see candidates stand flat foot and just articulate what it is that they believe and go down swinging and looking good if they strike out. Just say what you believe. Then I can say, okay, I'm not with that. Then that's okay. I might want to go with this candidate here. But also, yes, hold them accountable, but don't hold them more accountable than you do with anybody else. Okay. I don't think that's fair either. A lot of times we get into, like, we just trying to hold people accountable. I said, but you didn't hold this person accountable. This is the same thing. And
so when we say that, I guess my question is what tactics? So we know that sometimes people write letters to their congressperson, or they might protest outside of their door, or you might call folks in say that, hey, bill so and such and such is coming down the pipeline. I want you to co-sponsor that, or I want you to vote yes on that. Do you think that those things work? Like, is that useful? Is there any data that's saying that when people do that, that changes an entire vote, some number of folks? Like, what can you tell us about that?
No. The studies have shown that in massive numbers, just can't be one or two people. Can't just be one church. In massive numbers, that can prove effective. Right? So I have a quick story about that that my wife Lisa and I just got involved with. A couple of weeks ago, we have some reports where, and one is a family friend, the other one is an actual church member. We are now, these were the only two that we know of, but we suspect there's more. There are people now receiving voter registration cards in the mail that are not eligible to vote. The one I remember, he's currently in jail.
Oh, wow.
And received a voter registration card at his home. So his mom was like, I don't know what to do with this. What is this going on? You know, he's in jail. He can't do it. So we called our representatives. And we started off with, in my district, so we took the state level, right? Antonio Parkinson, and then we called County Commission, Charlie Caswell, and then we finally got somebody back from both of them, but quickly from the Caswell offices and stuff, which put us in touch with the the Election Commission, which now they are investigating the case to see if, and I think our state senator, Ockberry, has gotten involved now with it as well. That's what individuals, we just called, we did what we supposed to start off, because I didn't hear from any of them, then I was going to have an announcement. But we did, and now it's going through the process. So my thing is, if that's good constituency service, I need to say that. I need to say that, look, I did this, they got back to us, we solved this issue. If they didn't, then I can say that as well too. But the point is that we do not want to hold people accountable no more, no less than what we hold anybody else accountable. Right? We don't want to do that. We want to be supportive when we need to be supportive, because that might easily make them want to do even better for the constituency that they're serving. So we should say, those things as well too.
All right. I have one more, and then I want people to get ready for audience questions, and we'll use this mic. I'll come to you so that you can voice your question. So, Andre, you've written about something that's provocative. I've seen it on Facebook. It's kind of what I believe. I think it's really the key to why we don't hold people accountable effectively. I really think that a lot of the stuff that we blame on politicians is actually the electorate's problem. Yeah. And I know that that's a provocative thing to say. As an activist, a lot of my peers, it appears that they don't like to hold us accountable. Everything is a systemic issue. Everything is about the man, the power. None of it is us.
Right.
So I'm gonna set it up for you as best I can. This is the one I've been waiting for. This is your question, right? That was some Tami. And I should say publicly, Tami Sawyer's held up at another, let's call it her elected duty. She kind of double booked. She's gonna get here if she can. So we thank her for communicating. And I just want to let everybody know that. All right, so back to electorate accountability. If 11% of folks who could have voted, that means what percentage didn't? 89.
Right.
All right. So as a person who's dealt with messaging with voters extensively, I know what they're going to say and what they have said, what they are saying. So I call it purity politics. The people who are elected are too evil.
Yes.
The people who voted for them are evil. And so I'm like, so why would you let 11% of the evil people elect evil people, and then you sit back and complain. Like,
Right.
why wouldn't you just go ahead and speak up yourself? And like, what makes the 89% not evil? Is it the virtue of not voting? Like, what's
Right.
going on? So can we really hold people accountable if we don't show up? What does it look like? If I call a congressman or my council person or my commission person and they realize that I'm somebody who is loud but does not vote,
Right.
is it even ethical that they respond to the 89% who's saying they are the majority of people who could vote but didn't, but now you want to speak? So let me ask it differently. When you say hold the voters accountable, which voters?
Yeah.
Is it all voters? I know you might mean this some on a federal level, but I do. If you do
All
that,
voters.
fine. But also bring it back to the local.
All voters, all voters. Thank you for that. Hashtag blame the voters. That's my little thing that, as part of the work that I'm doing now with elections and voters and polling and all of those things. UpTheVote does a great job in giving us a poll. Typically before the what are most of the Memphians saying? What or Shelby County, you know, if it's a county election. What are Shelby Countyans thinking? And they publish it. Now, if I'm a candidate and if I want to win, I might look at that. I check the validity of the polling and see the sample data and stuff like that and all of that, and maybe yes, and I check it with other things. But if that is the majority of the people, why would I not run on that information? Mm-hmm. Oh, people won't, oh, no, I mean, they don't want ice, don't want this. Okay, I'm gonna run on that. This is me. I'm running on what you said you want. Then I get blowed out. I lose by 60 points or 50 or 40. It's not even close. I'm running on what you say you want. Well, the people, I guess, who didn't want that showed up at the polls, and everybody else who said that they wanted didn't show up. Mm-hmm. Hashtag blame the voters. I ran on what you said you wanted. Mm-hmm. I came to every meeting, told you exactly. I held up the paper. This is my campaign platform. What you said you wanted. I agree with everything on here. Mm-hmm. Now, bringing it out, and this is where all of this really stimulates from and really got me into, hopefully I can get some stuff out later this year. The 2024 election proves this so powerfully to me. Again, the presidential election. There were states that, of course, supported Trump like 60-40. But the policies, those little ballot measures, initiatives, like reproductive choice, living wage, and those same states voted overwhelmingly for those issues, but voted for a person that's totally opposed to those issues. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I want reproductive choice, but I'm going to vote for the person who made it possible for me to even have this on the ballot in the first place? What do you do with that? I think communication scholars got it wrong. I think political scientists get it wrong. I think advisors to campaigns get it wrong. You do not need a better messaging campaign. You're already winning the messaging war. What you need are some more voters that actually are going to support. And I'm talking about a lot of the conservative vote. Sooner or later, you must say to yourself, conservative voter, if I want, for instance, background checks in Tennessee, 92%, I may not vote for the candidate that don't want that, even though we are both conservative. If I want reproductive choice, if I want other progressive living wage bills, fight for 15, any of those things, I may not want to vote for the candidate that would not give me that. Sooner or later, in political communication, it comes down to consent. And this is why Trump said, even though he won a little bit over here, a little bit over here, just enough electoral college votes to actually win. And he got the majority of the popular vote, roughly about 2 million. And he said, oh, this is a landslide. I have a mandate. He has a mandate because we gave him consent. He told you exactly what he was going to do. Said what he was going to do. Everybody said it was not good. People analyze it. You had a whole Project 2025 out there, and you still voted for the guy. And can I just say one thing, since I'm on this roll, because you're giving me this opportunity to say, one of the major groups, because his tariff bill was I'm using this as an example of policy for a moment. His tariff bill was the one, right? That like, oh, that was my policy, tariffs. The one group in this whole country that should have been loud, should have been just marching, should have been just going to the White, doing anything to get our attention were farmers. Because they knew what tariffs did back in 2017. They had to get that little small bailout, which really didn't put them back even. But even they, after he said what he was going to do, said, we got you, man. You our guy.
I'm going to have to go.
What do you do with that?
I'm going to have to go to the audience. I hope some of y'all ask some really good local questions. Yeah. If I need to write you a cue card, I will. All right. Because I want to know about some of the local stuff, too. I mean, we've been talking about universal pre-K.
I don't know nothing about no local stuff.
Are we going to raise tax 1% on a third wheel tax and all of that? And it didn't happen. So was that because people wanted to or didn't? So does anybody have questions? I saw Sister Aretha first, right? She said she forgot about what she wanted to ask. Anybody else? All right. Okay. Thank you, Miss Aretha. Who forgot? Go ahead.
Good morning again. Dr. Johnson, this question is for you.
Yes.
I need you to unpack and unravel this term that you used for me, progressive policy.
Yeah.
Kind of unpack that and let me know what exactly that entails.
Well, typically most people look at progressivism as the opposite of conservative. So if you want to maintain the status quo, if you want to just keep everything like it is, you don't want to, and even going back even further, like some of these bills that are coming out of our Tennessee House or being talked about coming out of the Tennessee House that to me are draconian in nature and rhetoric that, that will just set us back, 50 years, 100 years even. But progressive policies are the policies that are totally opposite against this. Like a living wage ordinance would be a progressive policy. Reproductive choice would be a progressive policy because conservatives are totally against it. I think personally a progressive policy would be a progressive national security plan, like, not going into countries and doing this, not funding certain countries that are committing genocide to folk. I mean, those are progressive issues and policies that if a person can articulate that vision, and it's always the ones that immediately gets the side eye because you think it can't be done or it's just too wild. But women getting the right to vote was a progressive policy. There were a whole lot of folk that did not think women should vote. A whole lot of folk didn't think black folks should vote. A whole lot of people didn't think that folks should go to schools together, both black and white folks. So those at that time were the progressive policies. The conservative policies were separate but equal. Let's just keep everything the same. Why we need these women to vote anyway? They can be at home. Those are the things that that matter to me, and they really matter to us as well, because when we think about it, the only reason why we are here today is because we stand on the shoulders of people who were, in one sense, thought to be kind of wacky and crazy for producing and saying what they really believe. But now we just grow up in it. And it just behooves me when I see conservative women, conservative black folk, and conservative, I would just open it up to the Rainbow Coalition of people of color who imitate this kind of rhetoric and this kind of association, and not understanding that it's really hurting them as well too.
Thank you. I'm Gail Tyree.
Hey, Gail Tyree.
And I'm here, I represent labor. And I don't know if I necessarily got a question or a statement, but the one thing I do want to say is that sometimes we have a tendency to focus on one issue.
Yep.
We don't care how many other things is going on out there. We want to know if, and I'm speaking Labor Pacific, if I vote for you, are you going to support labor without necessarily detailing what all labor is about? And even in the labor are divided. While one may, you know, and here in Memphis, we have a large majority of labor people that are in unions, that are white, conservative males, and no matter how
Yeah. Yep.
and I can recall, and I was the executive director of AFSCME, and I
remember.
support, because Big Willie wasn't my guy. I just, and he actually came, said in the interview, I can win without y'all. Because y'all normally don't even vote. And if you vote, you don't vote with us. And what he's saying is most of you vote. So I begged them, no, let's not go with Willie. Guess who they went with? And so I guess my thing is that it's hard, and I don't even know where to put this, because when you're divided within an organization,
That's right.
it is just so hard to say we can make a difference.
Right. Right. No, you bring up a great point. And what I would say about that is, going back to my morality, and can I get a bottle of water? Wow, yeah, thank you. I'll go back to what I was saying earlier about standing on your beliefs and your morals. If I'm a candidate and labor is an issue for me, and I want good wages, I want to protect labor, I want make sure that labor has fair shot at negotiations, and I want them to know. Thank you so much, Gabe. All right, thanks. And if I want to know all of that, if I want to promote all of that, and I go out and I work hard for the labor vote, and yes, and if I get the labor vote, what I have to do when I get into office is, of course, support labor. And you have a right to be at my office every day because you did the work to get labor to support me. But your issue is that there's a split anyway. And we saw it at the top levels of the labor movement, and I'm sure it just trickled on down. But there is an apparatus, a party, a group of people that we ought to be able to hold accountable in order for labor issues to get through. And so, right, what politicians do is, as I said earlier, they'll go to people who they think are actually going to vote for them and their policy. And a lot of times when we complain that we don't hear or see or any politicians in our neighborhoods, or we see them like one time or briefly or whatever, what they're telling us too is that y'all don't vote. I have limited resources, I have limited funds, I'm only one person. I don't have a full staff. I have to go where they are actually going to go to the polls. And the low-hanging fruit for everybody in here, for everybody watching, the low-hanging fruit on any movement platform, the lowest hanging fruit is casting a ballot. If that's all you do, I cast the ballot. That's okay. That's the lowest hanging fruit on a movement platform. And so I think that we all should use our own agency to determine. You know, going back to your young person anecdote that you were using, Situ, this is how I heard it. And when I was doing the interviews with the book, Black Lives Matter book, summer 2020, an activist, I believe out of Cincinnati, said this, and I said, I like this. He said, you know, electoral politics is what it is, but we vote because we want to determine who we're going to fight with. I want to pick my opponent. I would rather fight with you than with you, because at least with you, I think you're movable a little bit. I know you're not. I don't even get in your office. So take that for what it's worth as well, too.
All right, so we have a question.
Yeah.
Brother Ian in the back. Brother Ian is very connected and active in our local politics.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. She's going to facilitate questions from here. I'm going to jump on the panel and help Brother Andre so he don't have to do it all. All right, so go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, he needed some water. He started sweating. I do a lot of work in the field that y'all talking about.
Sure.
And I'm a realist. I'm not a optimist. I don't live in La La Land. So I have a shirt that I had made. I haven't started wearing it yet, and I was like, darn, I should have wore it here. It says, I am not racist, but I vote for him. Think about what I just said.
Come on.
So one thing that I have heard overlooked is the role that racism and misogyny played in the last presidential election, and it plays a role here. In Memphis and Shelby County, black people make up the majority.
Yep.
And currently, we are in leadership positions. So what I see coming, just from the state, when you look at the history, they don't like Memphis and Shelby County in the state legislature. If we say go left, they gonna say, no, y'all going right. If we say we wanna go up, they gonna say, no, we want y'all to go down. And when I go to Nashville now and see what's coming down the road legislatively, the people in Memphis and Shelby County need to wake up and realize they need to turn out to vote, because this is one of our last lines of defense. We can't keep voting the same way we've been voting. Just because you know somebody's last name don't mean that's the person for the job. And just because they're your friend don't necessarily mean that they are a good candidate. We need to look at people's leadership skills. Not getting on Facebook acting a fool. Oh, I'm going to vote for them because you see them on Facebook acting a fool. We need people with management skills. Look at what has gone on in our offices over the last 4 years and tell me that we have picked good leadership and good management skills. The last thing I'm going to say is we need to pick people that have experience in the community, not out in the community keeping up mess. Because if they keeping up mess on Facebook and out in your community, and you say, hey, that's my guy, then they get in the office, what they gonna do? Keep up mess and the same stuff they was doing on Facebook and in the community. So in closing, I'm gonna say, I agree with you. It's on us, and the people we elect are a reflection of us, and we need to do better.
Absolutely.
I'm off my soapbox now.
Thank you. So as we go to the next person who has a question, I want to say that you actually raised two questions. One was about the isms of America, and two was about representation. And so I would like to respond to that. You can't overestimate the impact of racism, and that's a thing. But I also want to keep lifting up something, because when I'm doing civic engagement, I'm intentional about showing them what their legislative bodies look like. So if you're looking at Trump's cabinet, it's all white and one person for HUD. If you look at our state legislators, it's like all white folks, mostly, and I mean the federal legislators, but for Tennessee, all white. When you get to District 9 right now, you have Steve Cohen, who's Jewish. The only Democrat at this time, and so still doesn't look like you. But when you get to local, if you look at our city council or our county commissioner, 7 out of 13 folks are black, and at the city council, I believe 7 are black women. And so even when they look like you, to get to your point about ideology, is it conservative or is it progressive? Is it liberal? We still didn't answer the question about the difference between liberal and progressive. So what I'm really saying is, yeah, those are important things, but if we don't take them out of bodies, right, and stop just looking at what private parts they have or what color their skin is, you will still be tricked. That's how you can elect a mayor who could make a decision for labor that would help everybody, but maybe disproportionately the people who make up the majority of the city, and they still not do it. So I yield to this brother to ask his question.
Timothy Moore, poet and educator. I'm deeply concerned with the promoted state takeover being led by a known promoter of deeply systematic racist practices, Senator Brent Taylor. I'm
And
curious.
Mark White.
I'm curious to what I deem reactionary vengeful voting practices. Some people in Memphis being so frustrated with black and brown leaders failing to support black and brown education and people that they are intentionally going against best interests just to spite a person or group of people that may not 100% agree or support our best interests. How do we raise awareness that we have more obligations to us to vote better and not emotionally?
Yeah, I love that question, because the first question I'm going to ask, because I'm blaming voters, is who is we, right? What I would say is those of us who organize, those of us who do this. When I first, my certification was with the AFL-CIO. I went to something called the Organizing Institute. I jumped on as an apprentice at some labor campaigns, blah, blah, blah. In other words, I've been doing it for a while. And a lot of it I have done for money as a job, but I also have done it for free. So when I was doing these labor campaigns and stuff, when I could go home, I would tell them to fly me to Memphis, and then I would volunteer and do it here. Why am I saying that? The reason enough people don't know is because they think it's the job of a handful of people paid or volunteering. They don't think it's their job. So what I'm raising is, if you ask people, what kind of government do you want? Do you want one where one person makes decisions, or do you want one where you get a say? They want a say. You ask them about a social construct. That's a big phrase in the activist space. Well, rights are a social construct. I can't cut you open and say there's his heart, there's her lungs, and there are their rights. Right? Rights are a social construct, but they believe in them. But if you then say, what's your social responsibility to that? Crickets. They're protesting responsibility along with everything else. So if we want more people to know, tell somebody. Use your Facebook for that. Talk about it at the family gathering, right? So if we want people to know, I'm saying speak up. It's not enough to say, why didn't you tell them? Right? So I would just say everybody has to see themselves as part of that we. And then I want to yield to other folks to ask their question or make their statement. But I definitely would love to talk about, if folks bring it up, this whole thing about a state takeover, because I think it's ludicrous. I've seen several. They don't work. I've seen it in Philly. When you get done, the kids still won't be able to read. But what will have happened is people have passed out this money to these private contracts to make it about private profit as opposed to a public good or service. But next question.
Nikisha Weston, a public educator. So I have a couple of things I want to run back and talk through. You talked about messaging was not the problem. Yeah. However, I want to talk about how that messaging comes across that may be a problem.
Okay.
To your point, we as African Americans know there's a such thing as a talented 10th. Some of us in this room have been a part of the talented 10th. And so if there is a talented 10th, not disparaging anybody, then there is a 90% that don't, quote unquote, meet that bar. What do we do as we do messaging to make sure that the messaging reaches, one, the people that it should, and reaches them in ways that they can understand? Here's why I say that. I brought my 13-year-old today because for me, this is a part of her, this is a rite of passage for her. This is a part of her becoming. But how often have you done this and you've seen that, right? And so if at 13 and at 14 and at 16, they don't know, and they become voters at 18, some of the messaging can be overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming, then I become apathetic. Also, how do we take into consideration the generation that are up and becoming voters, right? Again, for my 13-year-old, they don't teach civics in school anymore. So unless I expose her, how then does she know? And if you think about a Brent Taylor, right? He has a long history.
And Mark White.
Thank you. And even Steve Cohen have a long history of the ways in which they have interacted politically. But if my daughter, if I don't talk to her until she's 18, she doesn't know that history. And so I want you to speak to that if you could.
I have been a big proponent, and everybody who knows the work that I do in this area, they can vouch for that. But I have always been a big proponent on what I'm calling like 24/7 education. What we typically do, and we talked about this even with when we were beginning with Up the Vote, you know, part of the issue is education. We need an education campaign ongoing, and we can't wait until the election, though. This needs to be going on all throughout. So in any church, any synagogue, mosque, any kind of community center, you know, I'm at the University of Memphis, and, you know, at the University of Memphis, at Lemoyne, at Rhodes, wherever we can gather a few folk. And that's the other thing. It's going to be a few folk, at least in the beginning. It may be a few folk forever. I don't know. But the few folk who come, don't get discouraged. Just keep on teaching and keep on educating. We have made it a via G Life that we are doing it 24/7 throughout the year. Virtually, in person, hybrid, whatever we can try to do. That is how we get the 13, the 14, the 15-year-olds enmeshed in this, and to re-educate some of the adults as well too, especially with the new technologies, with AI, with all kinds of misinformation and disinformation, deep fakes, all of that. We need education about that. How to pick those out of a lineup. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to first say that's my community niece too. So glad that she could come out. All right, but I'm gonna, and so for her, I think it's a little different. But I'm gonna hold adults to a different level of accountability as well, because one of the challenges that I have is somebody knocking doors, making phone calls, and trying to educate people is everybody already knows every damn thing. They've done their own research, right?
That's
so
true.
it's very difficult to like try to organize in a climate where everybody already knows because they've seen a series of videos on YouTube or they watched a TikTok video. So what I'm really trying to say is I don't profess to have the answer to how to deal with that, but I want people to understand the nature of their problem. It's not that people aren't trying to reach them. It's not that people aren't using social media. I don't know how many events we've done where we have to say it was on the news, it was in the paper, we made some posts. What do I do? If I send you a text, you ignore that because it's about politics, right? So I'm going to say that I think the only way to really make a headway into that really has to be personal relationships. It really has to be with people, again, at the dinner table,
That's right.
at the family gathering. It should be institutionalized. I do not understand. I understand what we say when we say the separation of church and state. But if I said, who is the leading voting group in the Conservative Party? Who is it? Evangelical church, right? But then you turn around and black folks will be saying in church, and I can talk about it because I'm a musician at a Kojic, a Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist. I play for a lot of churches and across the country. And what I'll tell you is we'll talk non-political about people losing their homes during the housing market crash.
Come on.
We'll say God's people aren't in a recession. If it's an unjust war, probably like the one we're dealing with Iran, or the kidnapping of a president or something like that. God don't have anything to say about that. What he says is pray for the troops. That's passive. But if you say gay people about to get married, now God has a lot to say across the pulpit and it's damning. All of a sudden God has gotten political, right? So what I'm trying to say is in all of our institutions, starting with your family and your household, you have to talk to them. So my question to the audience would be, why are we not doing that? I'm lifting up that I think it's because we're scared of that confrontation is one answer. Yes.
I want to speak to that because I moved here 25 years ago, and I brought with me a 3rd grader and a 7th grader. Mm-hmm. And when we got here, I had already been in this work 15 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those parents that there are some things I say to my children, don't be in my face. But there are also some things that I want them in my face when they're talking. Mm-hmm. And so after I had been here about a month, I took my 3rd grader and my 7th grader to the Civil Rights Museum. And we went on a guided tour. And so the tour guide, he stopped right in the middle of the tour, and he was asking questions. Mm-hmm. And so he was asking the questions, and then my 3rd grader and my 7th grader was popping off them answers like they were the tour guide. Mm-hmm. I was so in shock. I had to hide my tears. Because I said, these children are listening.
My.
Because I talk about this stuff all the time. My 7th grader knew how to work an old button making machine. Because when I go to the union hall, I took him, you going to make buttons tonight. No, you ain't going to watch TV. We making buttons and we making posters. Mm-hmm. And so to go back to what you said about, we have to tell these children in our house, we have to have these conversations. My son, he went to DeSoto Central when we first moved here because we moved to Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And there was a young guy in his class that was gay. And all the people in school teased him. And I made my son be his science partner. Mm. He came home, was telling me about it. I said, that's going to be your science partner. No, Mama, why? I said, oh, yeah, that's what you're going to do. I said, you need to bring him home tomorrow. Let's work on this project. And to this day, they are still close friends. Wow. I said, you have to get to know a person for who the person is. Mm-hmm. Don't put these titles on people. And now, in my house, we are accepting of so many things that a lot of times Christians, we're not accepting of. Mm-hmm. You have to be accepting of people. And you have to talk to your children about all of these things. Politics, things happening in the community, gay, lesbian, and trans. Yes. It's just so many, women being abused. I come from an abusive mother. My mama was abused. Mm-hmm. And I determined I wasn't going to have it in my house. Mm-hmm. But I still got to talk to my children. And I got to tell my son, mm-hmm. if you don't want to put your hand, you don't want to put your hands on your mama and your sister, don't you put your hands on nobody else's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with it. We have another question up front.
It starts at home.
I agree.
Since this meeting is about accountability, I want to ask a question. Who do you hold accountable in regards to the XAI project? And I have a point that I'd like to make. First of all, I had basically thrown in the towel until I met Dr. Fisher and Dr. Bayakli. Ahi. That project was launched long before it ever hit the news. Yep. I have property in the area. If you've not seen it with your own two eyes, you wouldn't believe it. What they're doing to the environment, what they're doing to the area, and ultimately when the manifestation happens, it's going to be too late. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable at how the dump trucks run all day, every day, 7 days a week. And what they're doing in the area, if you've not seen it, it will blow you away. My point is, who do you hold accountable? I know some people have jumped out there and they've had rallies, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, I had given up. but I'm re-energized. Who do you hold accountable for this project?
Want to go first to me?
go.
All right,
You
so
go.
I think
You've been
that's a very great question, and I think what I have seen in the public as a concerned citizen is I think we are negotiating with the wrong person. I think that we have to think about how many things had to be done for XAI to exist. So some of it is like buying property. And when I'm doing civics tennis, like civics 101 questions, one of the things that I ask people to do is to imagine that they are an elected official. Tell me what your pet issue is. Okay, now can you fix that by yourself? Can you stop this by yourself? Can you make this happen by yourself? No matter how big your afro gets, no matter how you raise up your black fist, and I support Pearson publicly, so I'm not playing about that. I want to say that I'm not talking about him. But no matter who, no matter how radical, that's the point that I'm trying to really bring up, that doesn't mean that you can get into office and hold back all racism, all bad capitalist action. So what I want to say first is that I'm kind of sure that the mayor could not have allowed or disallowed that by the mayor self. Now that's interesting because and from my point of view, he has stepped up as the chief bullhorn for it, right? And so it's like, why, if you are so disempowered in this decision, would you be the main spokesperson? And I think the answer to that is simple, because he must support it. Right, and so he's willing to kind of be like the main fall guy and face for it. However, I think that starts at a permitting level, which has something to do with the state level, right, and who your legislatures are. So when people were defending XAI, one of the things they talked about is the level of pollution all around Memphis, all around this area. And you can go, I think it's called Sea Isle, the place with all those, you see the body of water, they have the sign up that says don't fish here, but I've still seen folks fishing here. And you have all of the companies around them, and that the buildings are dilapidated, falling down, and we know it's pollution. But what's happening is they are allowed to basically pay a fine per day to let that sit, as opposed to doing anything about it. So the apparatus that's supposed to police that is at the state level. I don't even know how much of that is at the local level. And so if somebody knows more than me, I'm happy to hear that. But what I am saying is I don't think that that's like your city mayor could have allowed or disallowed people to like buy private property. If there's a permitting thing, and that's one of the things in public debate that he could have done, then that's a specific issue. But I open the floor to folks who are expert in that beyond me, but I just know that no one city mayor could have allowed or disallowed that. Does anybody know anything? I invite any expertises in the audience. Yes.
It's not just actually the mayor, it's also, as you have
City
mentioned,
council.
permitting.
Yeah.
And up till now, they don't have a permit. Up till now.
He's going to bring you the microphone.
They don't. They are really operating illegally. Let's put it this way: up till now, by the law, they are operating illegally. They made so many promises that already broke. They said that they're going to use this much water, and they said it's going to be gray water, and now they're not doing that.
Right.
They're using it. So, based on what their application was, and based on what they promised, everything that they have said is a lie.
So
So you
Ramadan.
can stop them you can stop them on any level. You can stop them on environmental issues. You can stop them in legal issues. You can stop them on whatever, on so many ways. It's just that there is no will. There is no will by the city officials, by the mayor, by the state. There's no will to stop them. And why there's no will to stop them? Because they don't live in Buxton, they don't live in Westwood. They're not breathing that formaldehyde. It's formaldehyde. Formaldehyde actually messes up your lungs.
Yes.
Maybe you're making money out of the taxes and that tax revenues, but you're paying it with the health.
Yes.
So these are the things. I mean, there's so many ways of stopping this project.
Hold the mic for 1 second, please, because if you can answer this question, I'd like for you to answer it. So one, Ramadan Mubarak to you.
Thank you.
All right. But when it comes to the permit, can you elaborate? Because I think what you're talking about is the permit about the turbines. Is that what you're talking about? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, they put in a permit for 15 turbines, I think, and they already have so far like 27, and they are applying for even more. That they want to have 35. These turbines are supposedly to work on new technology that doesn't impact the air and doesn't impact the pollution, but they didn't put the new technology in their turbines. They used the old turbines They really super pollute the environment, and they release formaldehyde and nitrogen elements in the air, plus the carbon dioxide and all that stuff. So these are all turbines that they are using. And this is really so right there. Actually, you can say, well, you didn't deliver what you said you're going to do, so you should stop the project. And that's again just from an environmental issue and from an ethical issue.
Yes.
And that's where Reverend Johnson should really be involved. Is that the XI, this project itself, allows for pedophily. The project itself, it's illegal already in Malaysia, Indonesia, in many European countries, and United Kingdom is about to outlaw it. And yes, the big guy in the White House, the small guy really, is trying to put tariffs on the European countries that are preventing XAI.
Yeah.
And why they're preventing XAI is actually to protect their kids.
Yeah.
To protect their kids. You can have actually 12, 13, 14 years old girl with an XAI that's, whatever you can imagine to do, you can do with it. So that's even from an ethical standpoint, from a mental pollution, from ethical pollution. Also, we can stop it on all these levels. And like I said, it's been stopped before. It's been stopped in other countries.
Absolutely. All right, so the question he
Thank you.
asked just for framing was like, who do we hold accountable? And I don't know if you answered this. You're talking about the mayor could have basically permitted. I do know this
What about
about
city council?
Or city council. We also heard that, though, I want to lift this up. Trump's EPA said that this was illegal. I also want to lift up that our mayor wrote in a commercial appeal that they didn't have these turbines, and we know from aerial surveillance that they absolutely do, and they are active and more than they said. And I just think that that's important to lift up the information piece. But go ahead.
Let me just say this. This is the example that I was trying to push. Okay, we got an issue. So who's the candidate that's going to come out and say this? You're probably not going to have one because they don't think it's a winning issue.
We have one, though.
Well, okay, but okay, go ahead, tell me.
Well,
Right.
let me ask.
Oh, wait.
Do people know which candidate is coming out and
Right,
saying
yeah.
something about it?
Yep.
State Representative Justin J. Pearson
Okay, I didn't even say it. Okay, all right.
is the only candidate, the only representative of Memphis and Shelby County
Right.
that has stepped out front on this. And please,
My bad, I was thinking
please be
local.
aware that this issue started long before Mayor Young. This
Yes.
happened under the watch of Strickland,
Yes.
okay? Jim Strickland, and Strickland passed it on to Young.
Mm-hmm.
However, the decision makers, along with Mayor Strickland, signed off on a non-disclosure agreement, okay? And that included the Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't happen in June of 2025.
Right.
This happened prior to June 2025.
Thank you.
And the people, some of the folks that are in positions today, the chief of police, there were several other members of organizations signed this non-disclosure agreement under Jim Strickland's watch.
Right.
It only became public to the council and the city of Memphis residents under Mayor Young's watch.
Right.
Thanks for lifting it up.
Hold on.
Yep.
We were talking about. I was just talking about city.
I got
right
you.
then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We know that Representative Pearson has been on this since like day one. All I'm just trying to say is that this could be the issue. Then we could have not only congressional representative, but we can get local folk involved if there are people that's going to run like a Justin Pearson or like someone who really cares about the moral implications of this as well as just, it is just bad. It's just bad all the way around. But I'm asking, like in our county races, I'm asking, in other words, you are going to need a coalition of representation to stop this. A coalition. Working together.
So if we have other questions from our audience, I absolutely want to take those questions and comments. And we have scheduled this to 12 o'clock. But notice that I'm not a Baptist preacher, so I'm okay with ending church early. It'll be on you. All right.
I'd like to add to Mr. Johnson's comment that we have to form a coalition. There are several forums that are occurring all over the city in this upcoming election. These are the types of questions that should be posed to those candidates that are running for office. There is a forum for the county candidates on Tuesday, March 10th. There are several county positions that are up for election, okay? In addition to the sheriff, on Tuesday, March 10th at Mount Nebo Baptist Church on Vance Avenue at 6 o'clock. In addition to that one, all of the other forums, these are the types of questions. This is how you help to discern who is going to be the best representative for you and for our city and our county. So I would encourage all of you to find out. They're all on social media. I've got a list of them if you're interested.
What profile should they look for, say, on Facebook?
I don't know. I'm Felicia Boyd, by the way.
Okay.
I only use Facebook, and I still do texting.
She's asking what's your name on. Is Felicia Boyd on Facebook?
That's me.
All right, we're going to look for Felicia Boyd on Facebook and know where to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I'm going to give closing remarks here unless there's some pressing question. Okay. Yes, Dr. Bell.
Thank you for mentioning it's Ramadan. So, and like when you say 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock is, for us is really time when we break our fast. And if it was this 10 o'clock, and I wouldn't be able to come here. It's really hard on us, and I know we should be there. I know I should be there, but thank you. So if I'm not, if you don't see any from the Islamic, community representing, it's just because that's the time when we are at home breaking fast or at the mosque.
Thank you for that. Do you have closing remarks?
No, I just, real quick, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this discussion. We need to have more of them, and we will, I'm sure. And just remember, we need, if there is a candidate that is going to support what it is that you claim that is important, that candidate deserves our support. We can't say, well, I'm gonna vote for this person because I think that person can win a general, or that person can win, down the line or something like, oh, these other folk weren't gonna vote for. That discourages people from running for office and trying to, support what it is that you're doing. So, instead of doing that, let's support candidates that really, really support us. And if they change once they get into office, the good news is we can get them out the same way.
All right. Let's give Dr. Andre Johnson a hand. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. And wrapping up, let me say that in the spirit of this, one of the reasons I think it's difficult to hold candidates accountable is because we really elect one person who may be more progressive among a whole den of people who are much less progressive. So you really can't that's why he said coalition, and I think that's important, right? Like there are how many folks on our county commission board? 13. So you can't get 2, you can't get 4 and think that you're going to get progressiveness out of that. So in that spirit, Up to Vote is going to hold its annual people's thing. You know, you might get lost in whether it's a summit or is it the people's convention, but you know it's a people's thing and it's about the relevant elections, and it's going to be on April 15th. Be looking out for the same communication that likely got you here. Now, some of y'all have raised a question and I got a little bit of an answer for it, so I want to plug this. I don't support the illegal occupation of our city by the National Guard. I think that's wrong. I think that's not a good response to crime. But there's a local shop owner whose name is Rob Brown, who owns a spot called the Sandwich Spot over on Park. And Rob and I are friends who are in what we call political struggle. That's a euphemism for we don't agree on everything, right? And we go back and forth. But I support him in this. And so if you didn't know this, they sought to intimidate him, right? A few weeks ago, folks in the tens, maybe even more than 100, showed up with all of the 3-letter alphabet from the DOJ, DEA, FBI, police, ICE, and they just sought to intimidate him. There was no reason that they were there. Why were they there? Because he had a sign up that said they weren't welcome. And that's important because he was making a political statement. There are places who are welcoming them and giving them like discounts, right, to capitalize on that. But he was resisting. And so what they were trying to say is, you can't keep us away. I'm telling you a little bit about the story because we're having an event there, March 11th, that is a civics engagement event. So if you're like, how do people know this information? How do they learn how the government works? Or what do the officers do? Or even this question, because a lot of them, I imagine, will be African American. Where do we fit in that? I am proud of the information being presented. I think it's being presented in a way that's down to earth, in a way that is reasonably comprehensible, yet digestible. But come out and tell me if I'm wrong, right? So this will be March 11th. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. I keep giving you that 2-hour window, but in the spirit again that I was raised in the black church, if the Holy Ghost is done sooner than that, I'm fine, right? But that's going to be March 11th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Sandwich Spot. I, and another group called the Equity Alliance are trying to do this civic engagement. So if we get to the end of this election cycle and people say, how do we let them know? I'm going to cover my ears, okay? All right. But having said that, I would like to really thank and celebrate the most important folks in this room to me, and that's you. Thank you for celebrating and coming out and supporting Up to Vote 901. We will see you at the next thing. Consider yourselves dismissed. Thanks.